The deep hum of the engines filled the bridge of the UES Poseidon. Captain Da-hyun Kim stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the stars through the main view screen. The year was 2157, and humanity had spread to Mars and Europa. But this mission would take them farther, to the edge of the Kuiper Belt, where no human ship had gone before. "Captain, all systems are running well," said First Officer Ta-1. "We should reach the target area in 20 minutes. Da-hyun nodded. "Tell the science team to prepare their equipment. I want everything ready when we arrive." The Poseidon was Earth's best exploration vessel, 300 meters of advanced technology built to find other life in space. After years of searching, their sensors had finally detected strange energy patterns coming from the edge of our solar system. In the science lab, Ji-woo Park checked her instruments one more time. The young scientist had spent 5 years studying alien biology, though until now it had all been theory. If they really found aliens today, she would be the first human to study a true extraterrestrial life form. "Are you ready for this?" asked her assistant, Yuna. "I've been ready my whole life," Ji-woo replied with a smile. But deep inside, she felt nervous. What would they find out there? The ship slowed as it reached the coordinates. At first, they saw nothing unusual, just the blackness of space and distant stars. "Scan the area again," ordered Da-hyun. "They should be here." "Captain," called the sensor operator. "Something big is coming out of that shadow." Everyone on the bridge watched as a massive shape emerged from behind a small, icy planetoid. The alien ship was unlike anything they had seen before. It looked almost organic, with a blue-green surface that rippled like water. It was at least twice the size of the Poseidon. "Open communications," said Da-hyun, straightening his uniform. "This is Captain Da-hyun Kim of the United Earth ship Poseidon. We come in peace." For a long moment, there was no answer. Then, a strange sound came through the speakers, like water bubbling mixed with clicks and whistles. "The computer is trying to translate," said the communications officer. "It might take a few minutes." Ji-woo rushed to the bridge, bringing her scanning equipment. "Captain, I'm picking up unusual biological readings from their ship. It's partly alive." "Alive?" Da-hyun looked surprised. "You mean it's some kind of living vessel?" "Yes, or at least partly biological. And there are hundreds of life forms inside." Finally, the computer translated the alien message. "We are the Sarani Empire. Your presence is noted. Request permission to establish peaceful contact," Da-hyun said carefully. There was another pause before the aliens responded. "Approach and prepare for inspection." Da-hyun felt uneasy. Something didn't feel right. "Ji-woo, what else can you tell me about them?" Ji-woo frowned at her scanner. "They appear to be aquatic, water-based life forms, and there's something strange happening inside their ship. I'm detecting rapid biological changes, like something is growing or—" She never finished her sentence. The side of the alien vessel suddenly bulged outward. Then, massive tentacles, each thicker than a tree trunk, burst from the ship's hull. "Shields up! Battle stations!" shouted Da-hyun. The tentacles whipped toward the Poseidon with frightening speed. Where they struck the shields, warning alarms blared across the bridge. "Shield power at 60%, yelled the tactical officer. "Whatever those things are, they're draining our energy." More tentacles emerged from the Sarani ship, dozens of them now, writhing in space like giant sea monsters from Earth's legends. "Get us out of here," ordered Da-hyun. "Maximum speed." The Poseidon's engines roared as the ship turned to escape. A violent shake threw several crew members to the floor as one of the tentacles grabbed the ship's rear section. "Divert power to the rear shields and fire all aft weapons," Da-hyun commanded. The weapons hit the tentacle, causing it to release its grip. The Poseidon lurched forward, racing away from the alien threat. "They're not following," reported Ta-1 as they put distance between themselves and the Sarani. Da-hyun helped Ji-woo back to her feet. "Are you okay?" Yes, she said, looking at her datapad. Captain, those weren't weapons. Those were living creatures, like giant space squids. The Xarani are using some kind of biological weapons against us. Dahyun looked grimly at the view screen. Send an emergency message to Earth. Tell them that first contact has failed. And warn them, the Xarani have unleashed the Kraken. 3 months had passed since the Poseidon's escape from the Xarani attack. Earth was no longer peaceful. Military ships filled the skies, and training centers worked day and night to prepare soldiers for war. Captain Dahyun Kim stood in a large meeting room at Earth Defense Headquarters. The walls showed maps of recent Xarani attacks. 2 colonies destroyed and 5 ships lost. Each red dot on the map meant hundreds of dead humans. Captain Kim, please share your experience again, said Admiral Han Solo. The admiral was a short man with gray hair and serious eyes. He led Earth's defense planning. Dahyun nodded and stepped forward. The Xarani ship released giant tentacles. They'd moved like they were alive. They weren't mechanical weapons, but biological ones, like giant space animals. Jaiwoo Park sat nearby, surrounded by scientific equipment. Since returning to Earth, she had been studying the small piece of tentacle they had managed to bring back. Dr. Park, what have you learned? Asked the Admiral. Jaiwoo stood up. The tentacle is both animal and machine. The Xarani grew these creatures, but added metal parts to make them stronger. They have a simple brain that follows orders from the Xarani ship. She showed images on the big screen. We now call these weapons Krakens after the sea monster from Earth's old stories. Each one is as big as a small ship and very hard to kill. A military officer spoke up. How do we fight these things? Our weapons barely hurt them. That's why we're here, said Admiral Hansol. We need new ideas. The room grew quiet. Then Dahyun walked to the screen showing the Kraken images. On Earth, every predator has something that hunts it, he said. Even the largest sea creatures have natural enemies. If the Xarani used ocean creatures as a model for their weapons, maybe we should look to our oceans for an answer. What do you mean? Asked the Admiral. Killer whales, Orcas, said Dahyun. They hunt in groups. They're smart. They take down creatures much larger than themselves. I've watched videos of Orcas hunting giant squids. Jaiwoo's eyes lit up. Yes, Orcas are incredibly intelligent hunters. They use team tactics that could work against the Krakens. Admiral Hansol looked interested. Go on. We need special ships, said Dahyun. Smaller and faster than our current vessels. Ships that can move like Orcas, hunt in groups, and target the Kraken's weak spots. Jaiwoo added, and we need to understand more about the Xarani themselves. They're an aquatic species. They think differently than we do. I believe they're using these Kraken weapons because they're familiar to them. The Admiral stood silent for a moment. Then he nodded. Captain Kim, Dr. Park, I'm putting you both on a special team. We'll call it Project Orca. He turned to a woman sitting quietly in the corner. Engineer Subin Choi will help design these new ships. Subin was small with short hair and clever hands. She had built racing ships before the war. I've already started some designs, she said, showing sketches on her tablet. Ships shaped like Orcas, but with special weapons. There's something else, Jaiwoo said, her voice becoming serious. My tests show the Kraken tissue has been changed at the genetic level. The Xarani didn't just find these creatures, they made them. They'd been preparing these weapons for a long time. A heavy silence filled the room. How long before the first Orca ships are ready? Asked the Admiral. 6 weeks for the first prototype, Subin answered. But we'll need pilots who can think differently. People who can fight like Orcas, not traditional soldiers. Dahyun thought for a moment. I know someone. Jin Ho Kang, a deep-sea explorer. He understands how ocean predators think better than anyone. Admiral Hansol nodded firmly. Find him. We don't have much time. The Xarani are moving toward Mars colony next, and we need to be ready. As the meeting ended, Da-hyun looked at the star map, showing the advancing Sereni fleet. They think they have the perfect weapon, he said quietly, but they've never met Earth's true ocean predators. Jai-woo stood beside him. They unleashed the Kraken, she said, and will answer with the Orcas. Da-hyun finished. 6 months into the war, and Earth was losing. The Sereni Krakens had destroyed another 3 human ships and damaged the Mars colony. The death count rose daily. In the underground base beneath the Pacific Ocean, Project Orca worked around the clock. Engineer Soo Bin Choi hadn't slept properly in days. Her workshop was filled with parts, tools, and half-built machines. On the main table lay her greatest creation yet, the Orca suit. "Is it ready?" asked Da-hyun as he entered the room. Soo Bin wiped sweat from her forehead. "Almost. Come see." The suit wasn't what most people expected. Instead of a small ship, Soo Bin had created a body armor system. It was sleek and black with white patches, just like a killer whale. The helmet had a glass front shaped like an orca's head. "It's not a ship," Da-hyun said, surprised. "Ships are too big," Soo Bin explained. "The Krakens can grab them too easily. But a person in this suit can move quickly, dodge, and attack from any angle." She touched the suit's arm. "The outer shell is stronger than any metal we've used before. Inside are systems that make the wearer 5 times stronger. The back has small engines for movement in space." "And for underwater?" asked Da-hyun. Soo Bin smiled. "That's the best part." She pressed a button, and fins extended from the arms and legs. "The suit works in space and underwater. The Sereni fight in both, so must we." Jai-woo entered, carrying a small device. "I finished the sonar system," she said. "It works just like Orca echolocation. It can find Krakens even in the darkest water." A loud voice came from the doorway. "When do I get to try it?" They turned to see Jin Ho Kang. He was tall with broad shoulders and a scar across his chin from a shark encounter years ago. The deep-sea explorer had arrived 3 weeks earlier to help train the Orca pilots. "Tomorrow," said Soo Bin. "We need to run final tests tonight." Jin Ho walked around the suit, studying it closely. "It looks good. How many do we have?" 12 suits ready now," Soo Bin answered. "Enough for your first squad." Jin Ho nodded. His squad members had been training in simulators for weeks. They were the best pilots Earth had: divers, submarine drivers, and space pilots. All of them knew how to think like ocean predators. "Admiral Hansol wants a progress report," Da-hyun said. "The military leaders are getting nervous. They think we're wasting time and resources on an untested weapon." "Let them think what they want," Jin Ho replied. "My team will be ready." Later that day, Jin Ho stood before his squad in the training room. The 12 men and women listened carefully as he explained their mission. "Orcas don't hunt alone," Jin Ho said. "They work together. They surround their prey. They take turns attacking to tire it out. That's how we'll fight the Krakens." He showed videos of real Orcas hunting. "Notice how they communicate constantly, how they know what each other will do without speaking. We need to be the same." A young pilot raised her hand. "Sir, the Krakens are much bigger than our suits. How can we actually hurt them?" Jin Ho smiled. "Size isn't everything. Orcas kill blue whales 10 times their size. It's about finding the weak spots." Jai-woo stepped forward with a hologram of a Kraken. "Their tentacles connect to the main body here," she pointed. "The nerve center is here. Hit these spots, and the Kraken will fail." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the base. Admiral Hansol's voice came over the speakers. "All personnel to battle stations. LRA vessels approaching Europa colony." Da-hyun looked at Jin Ho. "Your team isn't supposed to deploy for another week." Jin Ho's face hardened. "We're ready now." Soo Bin rushed forward. "But the suits haven't had their final tests." "No better test than real combat," Jin Ho said, already moving toward the equipment room. His squad followed quickly behind him. Admiral Hansol appeared on the main screen. Captain Kim, the Europa colony has only minimal defenses. They won't last an hour against Kraken attacks. Da-hyun looked at Jin-ho suiting up with his team. Sir, we have another option. The Orca squad is ready for deployment. The Admiral hesitated. They're untested. So were the Krakens once, Da-hyun replied. It's time to show the tyranny that humans have predators too. The transport ship raced toward Europa's orbit, carrying Jin-ho and his squad of 12 Orca pilots. Through the viewports, they could see the moon's icy surface reflecting light from distant Jupiter. They could also see 3 Xorani vessels moving toward the human colony. Look at the size of them, whispered one of the pilots. Jin-ho checked his suit systems one final time. Remember your training. Size doesn't matter. Speed and teamwork do. The transport captain's voice came through their helmets. 5 minutes to drop point. Xorani ships have already launched Krakens. The colony's outer defenses are failing. On the command ship, Da-hyun, Ji-woo, and Subin watched the battle unfold on large screens. Admiral Hansol stood with his arms crossed, his face tense. Those Orca suits better work, he said quietly. Subin clenched her fists. They will. On the screen, they saw the transport reach its position. The bay doors opened, and 12 black and white figures shot out into space. The Orca squad had entered the battle. Jin-ho felt the freedom of space as his suit's engines pushed him forward. Orca squad, form up. Attack pattern Orca 1. The 12 pilots formed 3 groups of 4 and spread out around the Xorani ships. Through his helmet, Jin-ho could see the massive Krakens, huge tentacled creatures with metal parts built into their bodies. 6 of them moved toward Europa's main dome, while others attacked the colony's defensive ships. Team 1, with me, Jin-ho ordered. Teams 2 and 3, circle around to the back. The Orcas moved with amazing speed, their black and white forms darting between debris and weapons fire. Jin-ho activated his sonar system, and suddenly he could see everything around him in a new way. The Krakens appeared as bright shapes in his helmet display. Target the nerve centers, he reminded his team. Remember, hit and move. Don't stay still. Jin-ho's team approached the first Kraken from above. The creature was focused on attacking a colony defense platform. It didn't notice the 4 Orca suits until they were right on top of it. Now, shouted Jin-ho. The 4 pilots fired their specialized weapons, harpoon-like devices that delivered an electric shock. They struck the Kraken's nerve center, and the creature twisted in pain. Its tentacles lashed out wildly, but the Orca suits were too quick, darting away before regrouping. Again, Jin-ho called. They attacked once more, this time from different angles. The Kraken couldn't track all 4 at once. While it focused on 2 of the Orcas, Jin-ho and his partner struck from behind. Across the battlefield, the other teams were using similar tactics. Team 2 had already disabled 1 Kraken and was moving to the next. Team 3 was protecting the colony's main dome, drawing Krakens away from the vulnerable structure. In the command center, Da-hyun watched in amazement. It's working. They're actually defeating the Krakens. Ji-woo studied the data coming from the Orca suits. The Xorani don't know how to respond. They've never faced an enemy that fights like this. One of the Krakens managed to grab an Orca's suit with its tentacle. Everyone in the command center held their breath. But the pilot twisted and used the suit's cutting tool to slice through the tentacle. The suit spun free and rejoined its team. That's Yuna, Subin said proudly. I knew she could handle it. The battle continued for almost an hour. The Orca teams rotated positions, never letting the Krakens focus on one group for too long. They attacked in waves, just like real Orcas hunting. Finally, the last Kraken was disabled. The Xorani ships, sensing defeat, began to retreat. They're running, shouted one of the pilots. Let them go, Jin-ho ordered. We've won this round. As the Xorani ships disappeared into deep space, Cheers erupted in the command center. Admiral Hansol allowed himself a small smile. "It worked," he said to Da-hyun. "Your Orca program actually worked." Da-hyun nodded. "This is just the beginning. The Xorani will be back with improved Krakens, but now we know we can beat them." On the main screen, they watched the Orca suits return to the transport ship. Their black and white forms moved together in perfect formation against the backdrop of space, just like a pod of killer whales returning from a successful hunt. "They unleashed the Kraken," Jigu said softly. "But we called the Orcas." For the first time since the war began, humanity had hope. 2 weeks after the victory at Europa, the mood at Earth Defense Headquarters had changed. Screens around the command center showed good news. 3 more successful Orca missions, 2 Xorani ships destroyed, and no human colonies lost. But Captain Da-hyun Kim knew better than to celebrate. He stood with Admiral Hansol, watching a new video feed from Mars orbit. "They'd changed their Krakens," Da-hyun said quietly. The screen showed a battle recording. The new Krakens had thicker armor plates covering their nerve centers. Their tentacles moved faster, and some even had sharp blade-like edges. Admiral Hansol frowned. "The Xorani learned quickly. They've adapted their weapons." In her workshop, Subin worked frantically on an Orca suit. Tools and parts covered every surface. Screens around her showed the new Kraken designs. "We need stronger weapons," she muttered to herself, "and better protection for the pilots." Jigu entered the workshop carrying a tablet. "I have the test results from the last battle. The new Krakens are faster by about 20%, and their armor—" "I know," Subin said without looking up. "I'm already working on upgrades." A loud crash made both women jump. Jin-ho had slammed his fist against a metal table. His face was tight with anger and grief. "We lost 2 pilots today," he said, his voice low. "Good people. The new Krakens caught them by surprise." Jigu put her hand on his shoulder. "I'm sorry, Jin-ho." Jin-ho looked at the damaged Orca suit on Subin's table. "Yuna almost didn't make it back. Her suit is barely holding together." Subin nodded. "I can fix the suits, but we need a new strategy." The door opened, and Da-hyun entered with Admiral Hansol. The room felt tense. "The Xorani are bringing more ships," the Admiral announced. "Our scouts count at least 20 heading toward Mars, each one carrying dozens of the new Krakens." Jin-ho stood straight. "My team needs time to train with the upgraded suits. We're not ready for a big battle yet." "You don't have time," said the Admiral. "Mars colony has 300,000 people. We can't lose it." Da-hyun looked at the maps and battle plans on the screens. Something didn't make sense about the Xorani attacks. "Why are they so focused on destroying us?" he wondered aloud. "Most species would try to communicate, to understand each other first." Jigu had been thinking the same thing. "I've been studying the Kraken tissue samples more closely. There's something strange about them." She showed them images on her tablet. "The Krakens have Xorani DNA, but it's been changed. Almost like the Xorani are turning their own people into these weapons." Everyone went quiet as they considered this dark possibility. "That doesn't seem right," Da-hyun said finally. "Would any species turn their own kind into monsters? Unless they're being forced to." Jigu finished his thought. Da-hyun turned to Admiral Hansol. "Sir, what if we're fighting the wrong enemy? What if something else is controlling the Xorani?" The Admiral looked skeptical. "That's a big assumption with no proof." "Then let's get proof," Da-hyun said firmly. "We need to capture a live Xorani. We need to understand what's really happening." Jin-ho crossed his arms. "How do you suggest we do that? We can barely handle the Krakens. The Xorani ships stay far from the fighting." Da-hyun's eyes lit up with a dangerous idea. "Then we bring the fight to them. We go to Xorani space." "That's suicide," the Admiral said. "Not with the right team," Da-hyun argued. "A small group in Orca suits could sneak past their defenses. We know they don't expect us to attack them directly." Su-bin had been quiet, but now she spoke up. "I've been working on a stealth system for the suits. It might work for a small team." Admiral Hansol paced the room, considering the options. Finally, he sighed. "The Mars battle is coming whether we're ready or not. If there's even a small chance you're right about the Xorani being controlled." He pointed at Dahyun. "You have 1 week to prepare a stealth mission. Take 4 of our best pilots." Jin-Ho stepped forward. "I'll go. And I know which pilots to take." As they left the room to prepare, Ji-woo caught up with Dahyun in the hallway. "I found something else in the samples," she said quietly. "There are tiny organisms inside the Kraken tissue, like parasites, but more advanced. I think they might be the key to understanding what's really happening." Dahyun nodded. "Pack your equipment. You're coming with us to Xorani space." The small scout ship moved silently through space. It had no markings to show it came from Earth. Inside, 5 people in Orca suits prepared for the most dangerous mission of the war. "We're approaching Xorani space," said the pilot. "Last chance to change your minds." Dahyun checked his suit's systems. The new stealth upgrades from Su-bin made the black and white colors seem to shift and fade, helping them blend with the darkness of space. "No turning back now," he said. "Remember, our goal is to gather information, not start a fight." Jin-Ho nodded. "My team is ready." With him were 2 of his best pilots, Yuna, who had recovered from her injuries, and Ta-won, a former submarine captain. Ji-woo finished packing her science equipment. Unlike the others, she had never been in combat before. "I still need a living Xorani sample to confirm my theory about the parasites." The pilot's voice came over the speakers again. "Large planet ahead. It matches the coordinates we got from captured Xorani ship data. Looks like it's almost entirely water." Everyone moved to the viewports. The planet below was beautiful, a sphere of deep blue with swirling white clouds. No land was visible anywhere. "A water world," whispered Ji-woo. "Perfect for an aquatic species." "I'm detecting hundreds of structures underwater," said the pilot, "and ships entering and leaving the atmosphere. This must be their home world." Dahyun turned to his team. "We go in quietly. Use the suit's underwater mode once we're in. Stay together and follow Jin-Ho's lead." The scout ship dropped them at the edge of the atmosphere before quickly leaving. The 5 Orca suits fell toward the planet, their engines silent, using only gravity. They hit the water with barely a splash. The suits automatically switched to underwater mode. Fins extended, and the breathing systems changed over. "Activate sonar. Low power only," Jin-Ho ordered. "We don't want to announce ourselves." The underwater world was strange and beautiful. Massive structures rose from the ocean floor, built of materials the humans had never seen before. They looked like giant coral formations, but with metal and crystal mixed in. Lights glowed from openings, and Xorani swam between buildings. "It's a city," said Yuna in wonder. Through his helmet, Dahyun could see the Xorani clearly for the first time. They had long, streamlined bodies like Earth's dolphins, but with 4 flexible arms. Their skin was blue-green with patterns that seemed to shift and change. They moved gracefully through the water. "They look normal," said Ta-won. "Not like monsters at all." Jae-woo was recording everything with her suit's systems. "Look at their behavior. Some swim freely, but others move in straight lines, like they're being controlled." Jin-Ho pointed to a large structure at the center of the city. "We should check that building. It seems important." The team swam carefully, using the city's shadows to hide their approach. Twice they had to freeze as Xorani patrols swam past. Their suits' camouflage systems worked perfectly. As they got closer to the central building, they saw something disturbing. Xorani were being taken inside in chains. They struggled against guards who looked the same as them, but moved with strange, stiff motions. "They're prisoners in their own city," whispered Dahyun. A low, deep sound suddenly filled the water. The team watched as a section of the large building opened. A group of Sereni swam out, pulling something behind them. "A Kraken," said Jinho. "They're deploying another one." The creature was still small, growing in size as they watched. Metal parts were being attached to its tentacles by working Sereni. "They're building them here," said Jiwoo. "But look at the workers. They all have something attached to the back of their heads." Dahyun adjusted his sonar to get a better view. Small, star-shaped creatures clung to the Sereni workers. They pulsed with a faint light. "The parasites," Jiwoo said, "just like I found in the samples." A movement caught their attention. A freak Sereni, without a parasite, was swimming quickly from shadow to shadow, trying to avoid the guards. It was headed straight toward where the team was hiding. "Don't move," ordered Jinho. The Sereni darted behind the same rock formation where they were concealed. It froze when it saw the 5 Orca suits. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the Sereni made a series of clicking sounds and pointed toward a narrow tunnel in the rock. "I think it wants us to follow," said Dahyun. "Could be a trap," warned Tawon. The Sereni made more urgent clicking sounds and again pointed to the tunnel. In the distance, they could hear alarm calls starting. "We've been detected," said Yuna. "We need to move now." Dahyun looked at the freak Sereni. Something in its eyes seemed intelligent and desperate. "We follow," he decided. "This might be our only chance to learn the truth." The tunnel was narrow and dark. The 5 humans in their Orca suits followed the freak Sereni through twists and turns. Behind them, alarm sounds echoed through the water. "How much farther?" Jinho asked, his voice tense. The Sereni made clicking sounds that none of them understood. Jiwoo tried to use her suit's computer to translate, but it wasn't working well underwater. Finally, the tunnel opened into a large cave. Inside were about 20 Sereni without parasites on their heads. They moved back in fear when they saw the Orca suits. The Sereni who had led them made calming gestures to the others. Then it touched a device on the wall. A bubble of air formed in part of the cave. "It wants us to enter the air bubble," Dahyun realized. "Maybe to talk." Carefully, the 5 humans swam into the bubble. They kept their helmets on but opened their faceplates. One Sereni entered the bubble with them. To their surprise, it spoke in broken human language. "You, humans, why here?" Dahyun stepped forward. "We came to learn the truth about this war. Who is controlling your people?" The Sereni's colors shifted to a deep blue. "Hydra Collective. They came 3 cycles ago, took our leaders first, then made us build Krakens from our own kind." Jiwoo gasped. "The Krakens are made from Sereni?" "Yes. Sereni who fight back, changed into weapons, remade with metal, minds erased." Taiwan shook his head in disgust. "That's horrible." The Sereni introduced itself as Min-jae, a scholar who had studied human transmissions before the war. "I learn your words. Hide from Hydra. Build resistance." "What are these Hydra exactly?" asked Dahyun. "Parasites. Mind controllers. They travel between worlds. Take control of species with good technology. Use them to spread." Jiwoo turned to the others. "That explains everything. The Sereni aren't our enemies. They're victims, just like us." Min-jae's colors pulsed. "We try to warn humans. Hydra stop us. Make us attack instead." More Sereni entered the air bubble. One carried an object that looked like a crown of metal and coral. "This block Hydra control," Min-jae explained. "We make few, not enough for all." Dahyun's mind raced with the possibilities. If we work together, humans and freak Sereni, maybe we can defeat the Hydra. Min-jae nodded. "Yes, but must hurry. Hydra build big weapon to destroy Earth." The humans looked at each other in alarm. "What kind of weapon?" asked Jinho. Min-jae led them to a map drawn on the cave wall. It showed the Sereni capital city, At its center was a massive structure. Planet killer. Uses sun energy. Can break a world. How long do we have? Asked Yuna. 2 Earth weeks. Maybe less. Dahyun turned to Jiwoo. Can you make something to free the controlled Sorani? Something based on their blocking crown. Jiwoo studied the device. Maybe. With Min Jae's help and the equipment in my suit, I might create a virus that attacks the parasites directly. How do we contact Earth? Asked Taiwan. We need to warn them. Dahyun looked at the Sorani resistance fighters. Do you have any ships we could use? Something that could get a message out. Min Jae's colors brightened. Yes, small ship hidden. Can send messages. While Jiwoo worked with Min Jae on the anti-parasite virus, Dahyun recorded a message for Admiral Hansol. He explained everything they had discovered about the Hydra Collective and the planet killer weapon. Sir, we're not fighting the Sorani. We're fighting parasites that have enslaved them. We need to change our strategy completely. Don't attack the Sorani. Help us free them. Jinho added his own message. The Orca squads should target the parasites on the Sorani, not the Sorani themselves. And we need more pilots here, right away. After sending the message, they gathered to plan their next steps. We need to disable that planet killer, said Dahyun. But first, we should free as many Sorani as possible to help us. Min Jae agreed. Many Sorani wait to fight Hydra. Need only freedom. Jiwoo held up a small device she had built with Min Jae's help. This emits a frequency that should disrupt the parasite's control. It's not permanent, but it might give us an edge. Yuna looked at the Sorani resistance fighters. So we're allies now. Min Jae's colors shifted to a bright pattern that seemed hopeful. Humans and Sorani, together against Hydra. Outside the cave, they could hear patrols searching. Time was running out. Dahyun faced his team and their new allies. They unleashed the Kraken on us. We call the Orcas. Now together, we're going to take back your world and save ours. 5 days had passed since the humans joined the Sorani resistance. Earth had responded to their message. 30 more Orca pilots were on their way, along with Subin and her newest weapons. But the Hydra Collective had stepped up their plans. The planet killer was nearly ready. We can't wait for reinforcements, Dahyun told the others during their planning meeting. We need to strike now. The cave that served as their base was crowded with humans and free Sorani. Maps and plans covered the walls. Jiwoo had set up her equipment in one corner, where she worked constantly with Min Jae. The disruption device works, Jiwoo announced. We tested it on a captured Hydra-controlled Sorani, but the range is short, only about 10 meters. Jinho studied the map of the Hydra Command Center. Then we need to get close to their leaders. Min Jae's colors shifted to a worried pattern. Hydra leaders never leave center building. Heavy guards. What about the planet killer? Asked Yuna. How do we disable it? A Sorani engineer named Du Yun pointed to a part of the map. Power center here. Destroy this. Weapon fails. Taiwan nodded. So we need 2 teams, one for the power center, one for the Hydra leadership. Dahyun looked at the assembled forces. They had about 50 free Sorani and 5 humans in Orca suits. Not enough for a frontal attack. We need a distraction, he said. Something to draw their forces away from the central building. Min Jae made a series of clicks that the other Sorani understood. We have explosives. Can set off at far side of city. Good, said Jinho. While they respond to that, our teams move in. A sound from the cave entrance made everyone turn. A Sorani scout swam in quickly. Human ships, the scout reported. Many coming. They rushed to the viewing pool. Through the water, they could see the dark shapes of ships entering the atmosphere. It's Admiral Hansol, said Dahyun, recognizing the lead ship. And he's brought the entire Orca fleet. Sure enough, dozens of smaller shapes launched from the ships, Orca suits, speeding toward the water. The Hydra defenses immediately activated, sending Krakens to attack. "This is our chance," said Jinho. "While they're focused on the new arrivals, we strike at the heart." They quickly formed their teams. Jinho would lead the attack on the power center with Ta1, Yuma, and 20 Xorani fighters. Da-hyun, Ji-woo, and Min-jae would take the remaining forces to infiltrate the Hydra command center. As they prepared to leave, a message came through from Admiral Hansel. "Captain Kim, our forces will engage the Krakens and outer defenses. We've brought Subin's newest weapon, sonic disruptors designed to affect the parasites. Good luck with your mission. Earth is counting on you." The battle above was fierce. New Orca pilots fought alongside the experienced ones, using pack tactics to overwhelm the Krakens. The water churned with movement and weapons fire. Jinho's team moved through the chaos toward the power center. They faced heavy resistance. Hydra-controlled Xorani blocked their path at every turn. "Use the disruptors," Jinho ordered. "Try to free them, not kill them." The devices worked on some, making the parasites lose their grip, but there were too many enemies. Progress was slow and dangerous. Meanwhile, Da-hyun led his team through hidden tunnels that Min-jae knew. They avoided most patrols, but the closer they got to the command center, the more guards they encountered. "The Hydra leaders can sense us coming," Min-jae warned. "They are afraid." In the heart of the command center, they finally saw the true form of their enemy. The Hydra leaders were larger than the parasites on the Xorani. They floated in a special chamber, their star-shaped bodies pulsing with eerie light. "Those are the creatures controlling everything," Da-hyun asked in disbelief. "They're smaller than I expected." "Now," Da-hyun ordered. While they're distracted, their team charged forward. Hydra guards rushed to stop them, but the humans in Orca suits proved too fast and strong. The Xorani resistance fighters moved with purpose, using their knowledge of the building to outmaneuver the defenders. As they fought their way to the chamber housing the Hydra leaders, Da-hyun heard Jinho's voice over the comm. "Power center heavily defended. We're taking losses. Need more time." Da-hyun knew they needed to act quickly. "Ji-woo, can you boost the disruptor signal? Hit all the parasites at once." Ji-woo looked at her device. "Maybe, but I need to get to their main communication node." Min-jae pointed ahead. "Through there. Control room." The final push would be the hardest. They had to reach the control room before the planet killer activated, and before the Hydra leaders escaped. Alarms blared throughout the Hydra command center. Red lights flashed underwater, casting strange shadows on the walls. Da-hyun, Ji-woo, and Min-jae fought their way toward the control room, their small force growing smaller with each battle. "The planet killer is powering up," Ji-woo shouted, checking her scanner. "We have less than 30 minutes before it can fire at Earth." In the power center across the city, Jinho's team was pinned down by heavy fire. Yuna had been injured, her Orca suit damaged along one arm. Tai-1 protected her, while Jinho led the remaining fighters forward. "We can't reach the main power core," Jinho reported over the comm. "There are too many guards." Da-hyun's mind raced. They needed a new plan. Fast. "Jinho, forget the power core. Get your team out of there and join us at the control center. We'll stop the Hydra at the source." As Jinho's team pulled back, Admiral Hansol's voice came through the comms. "Captain Kim, we've disabled most of the Krakens, but more keep coming. Whatever you're planning, do it quickly." Finally, Da-hyun's team reached the doors to the control room. Behind these doors were the Hydra leaders and the controls for the planet killer. "Ji-woo, is the disruptor ready?" Da-hyun asked. She nodded, holding up the device they had built with Min-jae. "Yes, but I need to connect it to their communication system to affect all the parasites at once." "Then that's what we'll do." Da-hyun turned to the remaining fighters. "This is it. One final push." They'd reached the doors with explosive charges and rushed in. The control room was a large circular chamber filled with strange technology. In the center floated 5 large hydra parasites, their star-shaped bodies glowing with energy. Around them, dozens of controlled Sereni worked at various stations. The hydra leaders immediately sensed the intruders. Their controlled Sereni moved to attack. "Protect Jiwoo," Dahyun ordered. "Get her to that central console." The battle was fierce. The Orca suits gave the humans strength and speed, but they were outnumbered. Min-jae and the freak Sereni fought bravely, many falling to save their world. Suddenly, Jin-ho's voice came through the comm. "We're outside the control room. The hallway is clear. We're coming in." Jin-ho's team burst through a side entrance, catching the defenders by surprise. With renewed strength, they pushed toward the center of the room. Jiwoo, protected by Dahyun and Min-jae, finally reached the central console. "Cover me. I need 2 minutes to connect the disruptor." One of the large hydra leaders detached from its position and floated directly toward them. It was bigger than the others, its center pulsing with red light. "That's their prime leader," Min-jae said. "It controls all others." Dahyun positioned himself between the Hydra Prime and Jiwoo. "You'll have to go through me first." The creature extended tendrils of energy that struck Dahyun's suit, sending pain through his body. But he held his ground. Jin-ho saw what was happening and made a decision. He looked at his damaged suit, then at the power readings for the planet killer that were rising on the displays around them. "There's only one way to stop this," he said quietly. Then, over the comm, "Everyone, get clear of the center platform." Before anyone could stop him, Jin-ho charged forward, directly at the massive power conduits feeding the planet killer. He activated his suit's self-destruct sequence. "Jin-ho, no," Dahyun shouted. Jin-ho looked back one last time. "It's been an honor hunting with you all." The explosion rocked the entire command center. The power to the planet killer cut off immediately. In the confusion, Jiwoo connected her device to the Hydra communication system and activated it. A high-pitched sound filled the water, inaudible to humans but devastating to the Hydra parasites. Throughout the city, the small creatures detached from their Sereni hosts, writhing in pain. The Hydra Prime leader, weakened but still dangerous, made one final attack on Dahyun. Min-jae rushed forward, pushing Dahyun aside and taking the full force of the attack. "Min-jae." Dahyun caught the injured Sereni. Min-jae's colors faded to a pale blue. "Finish it. Free my people." With a roar of anger, Dahyun charged the Hydra Prime. His Orca suit gave him the strength he needed. He grabbed the creature and crushed it between his hands. As the Hydra Prime died, the remaining parasites lost their will to fight. The controlled Sereni were suddenly free, looking around in confusion. "It's over," Jiwoo said, checking her scanner. The disruptor worked. The Hydra connection is broken across the entire planet. Outside, the battle was ending too. The Krakens stopped fighting as their controlling parasites died or fled. Days later, Earth ships and Sereni vessels floated side by side in peaceful orbit. On the Sereni homeworld, humans and Sereni worked together to rebuild. In a memorial ceremony, Admiral Hansol stood with Dahyun, Jiwoo, and the surviving Orca pilots. They honored Jin-ho and all who had fallen. "Today marks a new beginning," the Admiral said. "Not just peace between our worlds, but an alliance." A recovered Min-jae, now speaking much better English, addressed the gathering. "The Hydra came to conquer. Instead, they brought us together. We now share the stars as friends." Later, as Dahyun watched human and Sereni children playing together in a special water chamber, Jiwoo joined him. The Hydra Prime said something before it died. She told him. It said they were running from something worse, something coming from deeper space. Dahyun nodded. "Then we'll be ready together, humans and Sereni, side by side." He looked at the new Orca training facility, where Sereni were learning to pilot modified suits alongside humans. "They unleashed the Kraken," he said. we called the Orcas, and together we found something nobody expected, a new ocean for both our species to swim in. Beyond the ceremony, in the depths of space, a silent signal traveled outward, carrying news of the Hydra's defeat and drawing the attention of something ancient and patient that had been hunting the Hydra for millennia. But that was a story for another day.